Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day. We see Palantir doing very well today, most likely due to the news that we've been seeing with the NATO contract. We'll be kind of covering that. That happened yesterday, but we'll do a quick summary on that. Also, some things that Palantir is doing, talking about bringing its AI solutions to the IRS, which is increasing its confidence and its contractual relationship with the government, which is very bullish for Palantir, even during these crazy times that we have with the tariffs and the trade wars that are occurring, which is kind of why we're seeing the broader market that's actually pulling back a little bit in the after hours right now, mostly due to Nvidia, which has a very heavy weight on the market. So before we get too far, hit that like button, help me hit my goal of 25,000 subscribers, and thank you guys so much for watching. Now, if you pop it up on the screen here, Palantir, for anybody that bought the dip down here at 74, what we saw for this local bottom, Palantir's already back up to $98, up about $20 per share, doing fairly well. And right now, just looking quickly in terms of a broad technical basis, Palantir does have a little bit of resistance right at that 100. I think now this is going to be with a big grain of salt because it's going to depend, of course, with anything that can happen within the administration, any announcements or headlines regarding the tariffs, any type of things regarding negotiations, things like that can swing the market by trillions of dollars. And that's the volatility that we're just living in right now. I think until some of these negotiations come to the table, until we have more of a concrete understanding on what's actually going to be happening with these tariffs, the market just doesn't really know how to price that in. So what we see right now, Palantir is actually outpacing and doing very well with the news that we've been seeing. If Palantir, where it sits right now in the after hours, we'll be talking about that, is at 96 here. If Palantir is able to break out past this $100 level of resistance, if we see some good news regarding the tariffs, good things that the market likes, that's where Palantir could continue to pop past this 100. If it does, that's where I think we're going to see a lot of buying pressure coming into Palantir. Last time we saw it quickly run up to 125 before seeing that pullback once it broke that $100 level of resistance. Now, if we do have some craziness, what my prediction is that Palantir might just settle back down here into the 90s. And it really has been starting to like to consolidate here in the mid 80s. This is a good point for Palantir to sit. Not necessarily a bad point considering the volatility that we do have in the market. Currently, on the overnight hours on Robinhood, sitting at 96, so down about $2 from its market close. Like I said, I think this is still doing well, kind of given what we're seeing with the stock futures right now as we speak. Quickly summarizing here, Palantir, they extend the gains we talked about after the NATO deal right here, acquiring Palantir's artificial intelligence military-enabled system. Great to see there. Palantir continuing to establish these key partnerships, getting a major deal with NATO. Now, one of the big things is we don't have a ton of the actual specifics of the partnership or of this contract right here that's actually released. Maybe some more details will come out later. We do just know that they have established this type of contractual relationship right here. One big thing that is important though is we do have a big trading war that's happening right now, and we know this. It's great to see that different countries are actually still working with Palantir, considering that they are very big advocates for the U.S., the West, and the Western defense industry. The fact that these other countries are still wanting to utilize their platform just shows the amount of demand and the potential that Palantir does have to help improve some of these other fundamentals within these different types of companies, businesses, international businesses, and it's great to see that Palantir is still continuing to expand. NATO did say, though, that it was going to be utilizing the Maven Smart system here in the next 30 days. That's basically kind of the gist of the details that we did get. And basically the MSS right here, the Maven Smart system, it uses AI to compile and analyze data for battle space awareness and planning, including identification of the military targets. We talked about the Maven Smart system before, different types of collaborations that we've seen, partnerships for Palantir within the government regarding that Maven Smart system. Great to see here that NATO is now going to be utilizing this same type of technology. And that's where the question sits, Palantir is really sitting at this sweet spot, and I think it's kind of an outlier in these kind of various scenarios that we're seeing right now being played out. From this geopolitical standpoint, Palantir and what we see with the U.S. and right now China is really butting heads regarding these tariffs. We're up over 100% tariffs on each. You know, who's going to come to the table? What are the negotiations like that? How are those going to play out? We don't know. Palantir doesn't have a lot of big ties to China in terms of their revenue. So in terms of their actual fundamental business, I think is going to continue to grow and be strong, but still could be influenced, of course, by the general market, what we're seeing in terms of reaction. Of course, everybody's going to talk about its valuation. As soon as Palantir comes down in price, that's basically its biggest criticism, and that's where you can see the risk for downside potential still staying relatively high. But for people that are, you know, capitalizing on these dips, we see are playing out to be good rewards, even though they do carry some risk with them. But if people are believing in Palantir in the long run, hey, those could be some decent entry points for different types of investors, depending all on their time horizon, of course. But Palantir right here, getting interactive with Doge, and we haven't really heard about Doge that much because the tariffs are just sitting at the, you know, the top of the headlines right now. But right now they're playing part of an effort with Doge to build a new mega application programming interface to access the IRS records right here, which could help by streamlining IRS different types of analytics services working right here to become the read center for all the IRS systems, just continuing to show its strong tie with the government systems and bringing AI solutions to those different types of departments. Looking at the general market, S&P 500 futures right now are kind of sliding down. Where they closed the market in terms of the broader index, just slightly in the red here. Did a fairly decent job considering all the volatility that we've had. Kind of consolidated on the day with a slight close in the red. Right now, we're seeing the futures that are sliding down, most likely due to this announcement by Nvidia. And where Nvidia is currently sitting at as we speak is kind of selling off in the after hours a little bit. Market close is at $112 that you can see right here, but where Nvidia is actually sitting right now is about $104. So down about another $7, nearly $8 in just a few short hours here. What the announcement was is that the chip giant here said that it's actually going to be posting a 5.5 billion quarterly charge. Now, this is related to the exporting of its actual H2O, H20. I like to call it H20 graphics processing units to China and other nations. These moves really here are following some uncertainty, of course, with what's going to be happening with Nvidia, talking about this roller coaster of a ride that's just kind of continuing to be pushed into the market. But Nvidia actually did come with a positive report that we'll cover in just a second here, committing to over $500 billion to actually bring its manufacturing into the U.S. They could be trying to avoid, of course, some of the what are these tariffs going to be long term, and especially they say here posting this 5.5 billion quarterly charge related to the exporting of these H20 graphics processing units. You have this announcement right here on their actual website, making this announcement to actually manufacture American-made AI supercomputers in the U.S. for the first time. And they're committing $500 billion to build an AI infrastructure builder in the U.S. and bringing its supercomputer production to Texas. Saying here on Monday, we got this information yesterday. Sorry I didn't make a video yesterday, a little behind in the news. Within the next 4 years, as the tech industry looks to bolster basically domestic manufacturing footprint in the face of Trump's administration right now. So what is happening with Nvidia is basically, I think they're trying to find out what's going to be happening with these tariffs, how are they going to be affected, and what the goal of Trump is, and I think the current administration is, you know, how can they force this new emerging technology, this global AI arms race that we're seeing right now unfold? How do we make sure that the U.S. can capitalize on having access to the best pieces of technology regarding AI before the other countries do? That, I think, is one of the goals right here. We'll see if this actually carries out to, become a true reality. Can it be a true success that the U.S. does stay as a leading competitive edge in AI development by basically holding a lot of power with access to these AI chips and the power of AI, the fundamental power, the core power, the GPUs. Can they actually hold a lot into the U.S.? And so Nvidia making these different types of announcements does bring up that kind of interesting hypothesis. We'll see what happens. What do you guys make of this with Palantir? What's your opinion regarding Nvidia? Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.